Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Callie, and today I'm going to be going through my September TBR. And I'm really excited. September is one of my favorite months because of my birthday's in September. And it is the start of fall, which is my favorite season. My house has already been decorated full on for Halloween. So, without further ado, I'm going to go through my TBR for this month. As always, starting off with a series or duology that I want to finish for this month. That is the Cast in Firelight Duology by Dana Swift, or it's also known as the Wickery Duology. This is a fantasy duology based in Indian folklore, where we are following our two main characters who are arranged to be married, but have had this this huge rivalry when it comes to magic, acts of service, heroism, all through letters in their entire life. And when they are finally becoming of age and have to meet and fulfill this marriage, they end up being a little less than excited about it. So we have Adra and Yatin, and these characters are so much fun. I actually just finished the duology earlier this morning, and I adored this duology. It is full of magic, romance, whimsy, and so many twists and turns throughout the entire series, and I loved every second of it. Next, I have a middle grade book that I've been eyeing for a while. Now, I don't typically gravitate towards middle grade stories, because I've been gravitating towards more mature stories, but I love Victoria Schwab, and I've loved everything that I've picked up by her. So naturally, I grabbed her middle grade series, which is City of Ghosts. And we're following a young Cassidy Blake who can see ghosts, as her and her parents are filming a ghosty TV show, essentially, in Edinburgh. And Cassidy meets another young girl who can also see ghosts. And it's the first time she's ever met anyone who has similar abilities to herself. So she's able to try and figure out how to unpack everything and why she can see these ghosts and how she's supposed to help, how she's supposed to use that power. It was a really fun, whimsical story, very, very middle grade, but it wasn't middle grade where I was cringing every 5 seconds. It was just middle grade because the characters were of that age group. I did listen to the audiobook of this. I realize this is my TBR and I've read a couple of these already, but in my defense, today's Labor Day when I'm filming this, so I have the day off, and therefore I have an entire weekend to read a bunch of books. So, I really liked the audiobook of this. It was really cute. Next, I finally didn't skip my book of the month for September, because it had Love on the Brain on it by Hazelwood. So I got this copy. I also got The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, which I may or may not read this month. Depends on how the whole TBR thing goes. But Love on the Brain was an actual choice. The Heart Principle was my birthday free add-on, whatever. So naturally this goes on the TBR for it this month, and I did read it immediately the day I got it, and I loved this book so much. Just so much love for this book. I love this book more than The Love Hypothesis, and I am happy to say that. This is another feminist women in science story. We're following Bee, who is a neuroscientist, as she is being put on this project for NASA with an engineer who was her academic rival in grad school, Levi Ward. And the tension, the animosity, the miscommunication, not even a really miscommunication trope, but it was so well executed. I adored every second of it. Next, I have Undivided by Neal Shusterman. I've been reading this it's called a dystology, is what he calls it. I've been reading this for the past couple of months. This is the final book in the series. There is technically one other, but it is a collection of novellas, which I will be picking up next month. But Undivided is the final actual book to the Unwind series, which follows a group of young people who are bound to be unwound, which in this, unwinding is a procedure that parents of teenagers can sign up their teenagers for to use all of their parts, essentially. It is a very dark, very scary, dystopian book series, but it is written really, really well, and I've been loving the series because it is dark and it has a lot of aspects to it that are a little too realistic in today's day and age, And it does handle a ton of heavy topics that a lot of people are scared to talk about and confront. And I love the way that Neal Shusterman approached a lot of those topics within this series. Next, I have The Star-Touched Queen by Roshani Chokshi. I originally picked this up because I fell in love with the Gilded Wolves series, also by Roshani Chokshi, so I wanted to take a look at her backlist. This follows a young princess who was given a prophecy that her marriage would be filled with death and destruction. So she's a little bit ostracized from, a little bit, she's probably very ostracized, I have no idea, I haven't read this one yet, from her family, and decides to pursue something more academic since marriage is probably off the table for her. But one day her father arranges a marriage in a neighboring kingdom for political reasons, and she ends up marrying that sultan and becomes queen. And she ends up finding this power within herself by becoming queen and having a voice and being able to help people, which I assume is going to be her whole shtick. But obviously, that prophecy is going to come into play at some point. I'm hoping for romance, strife, animosity, intrigue, maybe some magic. It says star-touched, so could be something along those lines. But yeah, I just love Roshani Chokski's writing, and I have a lot of high hopes for this. I've heard nothing but great things about it. Up next, I have The Vanishing Deep by Astrid Scholte. Astrid Scholte is the author of Four Dead Queens, which is a standalone that came out a couple years ago, and I adored it. So I've been eyeing this book. I hate the cover, which is the only reason it's taken me this long to get it. We're following a girl in this set of islands, Tempe, who spends her days diving for anything of value because in her world, for a very, very steep price, you can speak to the dead. And she wants to be able to figure out why her sister died, who killed her. And her sister also died with a secret, so she wants to resurrect her sister to get all of these answers and get some closure. I'm really excited to start this, and just overall, I love Astrid Scholte's writing. She writes a great plot twist, so I expect that, and I'm overly excited to finally read this book. Up next, I have Tiger Lily by Jodi Lynn Anderson. This is a Tiger Lily Peter Pan retelling based off of the original Peter Pan story, but instead of following Peter Pan, we're following Tiger Lily. So I'm intrigued to see where this story goes and the type of direction it will take. Next, I have Defy the Stars by Claudia Gray. This follows a young woman her sole duty is to protect her planet from Earth. So it sounds like very cool alien stuff. There's also a machine that we're following. This AI who has begun to evolve while being alone in space. And I've heard really good things about this series, and since finishing the Aurora cycle, I've been wanting something sci-fi again. So hoping this scratches that itch. Next, I have Daughters of Sparta by Claire Heywood. This follows Helen and her sister Clytemnestra. I'm going to have a lot of trouble saying that, as they go through their lives. So usually a lot of the Greek myths surrounding especially Helen, I know nothing about her sister, are about her beauty, her grace, and all of this. The Trojan War fought over her, but this is from her perspective, I believe, from her and her sister's young childhood all the way up into their deaths. And I'm really intrigued to see that perspective of the famous Greek mythologies. I'm intrigued to see where her sister comes into play, as they are both princesses of Sparta, and I'm excited for some Greek mythology stuff. The last book that I have is Reboot by Amy Tintera. I finally got my hands on a physical copy of this. This is, I believe, her debut. Amy Tintera is also the author of the Ruined trilogy, which I really liked. I believe I read that last year or the year before. This follows a society where you get rebooted after you die, but depending on how long it takes for you to get rebooted depends on how much humanity you get back. And that is the entire concept of this story. This is a standalone science fiction novel, and I am super pumped to dive just right into it. I don't really want to know what the plot is. I know the basic premise, and that's all I need to know going into it. The last, I guess, I know I said that was the last one, but I've got one more book on the TBR. Sarah, myself, and our friend Hannah are doing a book club for a Polycon because the three of us are going to a Polycon together in April. And the book that we chose is Triton's Academy by Aleera Amaya Ceres. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. We're really excited. This is a reverse harem mermaid romance, and I immediately read the back of it and said sold. So that is on my Kindle right now, and I'm very, very excited to jump into this. I think I got the like big bundle thing on my Kindle. So I'll probably just binge through all 3 books and call it a day. But each month we will be picking a book from a Polycon author who will be attending in April so that we can kind of expand our reading and just be able to meet more authors. Because that was half the fun of going to a Polycon this year, is meeting a ton of authors. And you know, I've been reading a lot of their books after the fact, so reading more books before the fact will be a little bit better. And I'll be able to actually meet these authors and talk to them about their books. So I'm really excited about that. But that is the end of today's video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, with the occasional Sunday, and I'll see you guys in our next video. Bye!